Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Spook Notes podcast, where we get academic about everything that goes bump in the night. My name is Marlayna.
And I'm Connor.
And on this episode, we will be discussing Three from Hell, a Rob Zombie film, or our first impressions of Three from Hell.
Yes.
Yes.
This is a unique movie because, as you know, for all of our first impressions movies, we go to the theaters and we immediately come back and talk about it on the podcast. But it's been a few hours now since we've seen it, because we had to go to a different country to see this movie.
And this is a first for, the Spook Notes podcast.
We're going international.
That's right, baby. We're going international.
And by international, we mean Buffalo.
Buffalo. So basically we had to drive an hour away into the States. Such a long journey to see this movie. But it was kind of funny because when we were crossing the border into the U.S., the border guard was like, oh, like, what brings you, like, what is your purpose here in the United States of America? And we're like, we're going to go see a movie. And he's like, what? Like, you came all this way to see a movie? And we're like, bitch, do you know us? And then we just put in his ear, hey, you should listen to the Spook Notes podcast. No, we didn't. No, we didn't say that. We might get deported. But, yeah. So,
this is usually the part where we say, before you go see it, we give a spoiler-free recommendation. But because it's in such limited theaters, only in the States, it's hard to really say when you go see it. I mean, it is coming out on VOD and stuff like that. So you should definitely still go see it. But you won't be seeing it in a theater.
But you know what? Like, if you are close to the border, let's say you live, in the Niagara region, St. Catharines, Fort Erie, cross the river into the States and go see this, fuck. I kind of gave away my spoil-free opinion.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think we both pretty much know that we would recommend this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, even if you do want to go see it, it's only on limited nights. Like, it's only playing
for the next
Monday,
2 days.
Tuesday, and Wednesday, and that's it.
Yeah, so
very limited. So get out there.
Depending how quickly I upload this podcast, you may be
too late.
Yeah. So.
But anyways, I mean, like I said, it'll still be on VOD, so you'll still be able to watch it at home for sure.
That's right.
Okay, so first off, spoiler free. Would you recommend Three from Hell?
Yes.
Yes, so would I. Okay, so for the rest of the podcast, we'll be talking about spoilers. We'll be going in depth with the movie. Yeah. Okay, so.
Tutti fucking fruity.
Yeah. Please go away if you want us to stay spoiler free, and if not, stay with us. Okay, so Marlayna.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on Three from Hell?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I really, really liked it. Way more than I thought I was gonna like it. I think this movie had very high expectations for the both of us because
I wouldn't say that.
Well, somewhat high. Okay, but here's the thing. It's like, here's regular movies like It and all those kinds of movies, and then there's Rob Zombie movies. So when I mean my expectation, I mean a Rob Zombie movie expectation, which isn't like a blockbuster film, just it's good for his standards.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I feel like I don't have high expectations for it. I have different expectations for it, especially because, like, I kind of mixed feelings a little bit going into this because, for the most part, I actually have kind of disliked a lot of his most recent films. Like, we saw 31, Lords of Salem, the 2 Halloween movies. I'm not really, aside from the first Halloween movie, which I kind of like, I'm not really a fan of really any of those movies.
See, I am very shocked that you did not like Lords of Salem.
I don't know. It was too weird for me.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, I was like, I don't know. Like, Rob Zombie hasn't made a really, really good movie in a long time. But on the flip side, this is the follow-up to Devil's Rejects, which is my favorite Rob Zombie film. And I think even though I also like this movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I would still say Devil's Rejects is still my favorite of his films.
Absolutely. Same.
So I was like, I don't know. Like, I have conflicting feelings. But when I was sitting down in the theater and I was ready to see it, I was kind of like, yeah, like, I'm ready to see, like, these characters back again. Because these are really the only, like, true characters that I feel like Rob Zombie has made. And I feel like because of that, seeing them coming back, you can tell that he's comfortable with these characters. And this is kind of like it kind of coming home for him a little bit.
Well, also you can kind of see like the characters, and like the actors who play them, like Bill Moseley and Sherry Moon Zombie, Sid Haig. They're all very comfortable with their character, and it makes it more believable in a way.
And it just makes it more fun to watch, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
You really care about these characters more.
Yeah.
And I think I really like the ending of this movie a lot.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I mean, like, just, like, the very end when it's, like, kind of, like
the
them
whole
going
Mexican
off.
shootout and everything like that.
No, I mean, like, literally, like the very, very end when them just, like, kind of, like, walking into the sunset, kind of, like... I feel like if I never saw another movie with these characters, which I don't think there is going to be, that would be fine with me because I feel like this is, like, how you would leave these characters' story. They're, like, walking into the sunset and they're free. Because really their story has all been about, like, just, like, the freedom of the, like... American idea that you can do whatever you want, and obviously what they want to do is kill people, which is terrible, but it's like kind of nice to see them walk off into the sunset.
To each their own, I guess. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought this movie was really good. I thought it was funny in the appropriate places, like not trying to be funny. I mean, like it's just the unnecessary swearing.
I think there is sometimes it was trying to be funny, but also sometimes not.
Well, it's just the amount of like, you know, profanity that they use in the movie is just like, holy smokes, it's fucking ridiculous. I don't know if we're gonna get demonetized for that.
Demonetized mean demonetized, and also we don't get paid at all for this. So.
Fuck. Demonetized, guys.
What else did you like about the movie? I mean,
like I don't even really know how to break it down. I liked just like the imagery of it. I really liked Sherry Moon's Aboriginal headdress.
You can't even say that's indigenous.
Indigenous headdress. I thought that was really cool, but also slightly disrespectful at the same time. But I just like the imagery like that, you know, because I feel like everything was kind of just exploited in this film, and I think they did that on purpose. Like for instance, you have like indigenous peoples, you have people of color, you have like women, like just Mexicans, blacks, like everybody just getting blown out of the water with their stereotypes. And I think they, like I said, did this on purpose simply because they weren't targeting one specific group or leaving them out.
Well, yeah, Rob Zombie movies are always meant to be kind of
extreme
and rude in that sense, but like in the sense that you know that he's not really like trying to be racist or anything. It's just kind of like that style, which is very exploitative and
and
back to that 70s style.
And maybe that's kind of just like an allegory for, you know, the United States is like there is to this day still a lot of racism in the country, right? And maybe he's just kind of amplifying that and, you know, presenting it in a more artistic way.
I don't know. But going back to what you're saying earlier with like when Baby had on that indigenous headdress and everything, that was something that I noticed. I really felt like when I was watching this movie, and I would say this a little bit with Devil's Rejects as well, but like especially with 3 from Hell, is I would say this movie was more of a Western than it was a horror movie.
Yeah,
like this movie was absolutely a Western, from the fact that like it was literally like a Mexican standoff at the end. It was like it felt very like Good, the Bad, the Ugly. The idea of like just like this like through these 3 characters, this kind of like posse, and they kind of go from place to place. They're kind of drifters, and they cause trouble like wherever they go. And just like the whole like ending in Mexico felt very Western, but also even like before that, like they kind of had to spring Baby from jail, like the jailbreak aspect of it. I definitely felt like of all his movies, like some of them have had this influence, but this is probably the one that's most like feels like this is his version of a Western.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I don't know if I like that or if I dislike that. I kind of like it.
I like it because
it's different and it sets like the movie apart from the rest. But at the same time, I like Rob Zombie's, you know, interpretation of a horror movie because it's just craziness.
I know, but I will say in defense of this movie, actually, I would say we've seen his interpretation of a horror movie
True.
before, so I'd rather see something different this time. And just like looking back at like the story of this franchise, because I think, like I said, I think this is going to be the last of the Devil's movies, like this trilogy.
Well, also because the characters are getting older, and I don't know how,
Well, and they literally killed off Sid Haig or Captain Spaulding,
which we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. But yeah. Anyways, what I was gonna say is like I think that the series has really evolved because it started off with with House of a Thousand Corpses, which is a straight up horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's straight up. Then it turned Devil's Rejects, which is more of like a crime thriller kind of family drama revenge movie. And then this movie, which I said is I think at the end of the day I think it's a Western more than anything.
Yeah.
So I like how the series has evolved and changed and is different every time.
Also, I just like the imagery used in this movie for like the whole like going to Mexico thing and like the Day of the Dead and stuff like that. I really, really like that. I don't know.
Yeah, like the sets and the imagery and stuff in Rob Zombie movies is always a big part of it. Like again, going back to like House of a Thousand Corpses, like that movie's all about like the visuals and the things
gore.
You're seeing on set.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they all have that distinct look, and I think Rob Zombie's a big fan of that. Like, I think 31 is also, even though I don't like the movie, is a good example of that, where it's like, it's themed, it's all like, you can tell he's doing this because he has this idea in his head of like a crazy fun house where these clowns are murdering everybody. And I think in this one, it's like, well, what if I played with Day of the Dead? Like, what would that look like in a Rob Zombie movie? Well, it's this. You know?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I thought he did a really good job of executing it. There were a few things that I did not like about this movie.
Okay, we're already going into the dislikes.
Well, but here's the thing. I feel like we do this all the time. We go into the dislikes, but then we also kind of go back to the likes. Like, I feel like I just need to say it and then it'll open up more conversation. I did not like how they killed off Sid Haig.
I didn't mind it.
You didn't? Why?
Because, well, here's the thing. At the end of the day, like I said, I still prefer the Devil's Rejects to this because Sid Haig is in it and he's so fun to watch. But I think for what this movie was, I don't think it really would have worked with Sid Haig because he's older now. Like, I mean, in real life, we've recently had this news that he had all this health problems and stuff like that. And I think that it makes sense for this movie to give us a new character, and that's why I think like it's really kind of funny that like the title is Three from Hell, and the beginning it's all about like free the three and everything like that. But then the three, who the three are, changes like later on when Richard Brake's character.
Like, here's the thing, I really like the new character who they introduced, but at the same time, it's like just the way they killed him off was just so abrupt. I feel like there was really no emotional connection there. It was just immediately lost because like Sid Haig is somebody who, started off in the House of a Thousand Corpses, followed along into the Devil's Rejects, was this big character, right? Who was this huge symbol for the series, and they just killed him off by lethal injection. And I was like,
I mean, there is the moment later on when they talk about like him and they were like sad that he's gone, that he lived a good life.
Yeah, but it's just like, what I didn't like is how they played him up so much in the trailer.
I don't think they really did that, though.
I don't know. I just remember, like, them playing it up and, like, yeah, like, the three from hell. I think the three, like, Otis, Baby, and Captain Spaulding, like, all of them, they're the three. And it's like, I feel like he was just pushed aside too quickly. I feel like he could have been more involved in the movie, but he did not have to die like that.
I don't know. I thought it was fine because, like I said, I kind of like how each of these movies is different enough from each other.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, it just pisses me off. Like at the end of the day, I think just from a practical standpoint, like I said, I really don't think that Sid Haig wanted to do this movie too much. Like I just think he's getting old. Like I don't know how old he is exactly. I'm pretty certain he's in his 80s or something. Yeah.
Like.
But even, like, when we were watching this, I just noticed, like, how old he's gotten. And, like, before the movie actually started, Rob Zombie gave, like, a little blurb saying, like, oh, yeah, my last movie, that I made with the
Devil's
series
Rejects
Devil's
was
Rejects.
15 years ago.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, right back to the first movie, The House of a Thousand Corpses. When was that made?
I think that was 2001, I want to say, or 2002 maybe.
Yeah, so that's like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, holy shit, Sig Haig looks so... Like, obviously he was an older guy, but
I thought he looked old enough in Devil's Rejects, which was like 15 years ago.
But I mean, he looked good. Like, he looked really good. Now I find he's just so frail looking. So,
Maybe it's because he is in real life, and that's why he didn't do this movie.
I know.
I mean, even Bill Moseley. I mean, you know how old? Guess how old he is. I looked this up before we saw it.
65.
That was a pretty good guess, actually. He's 67.
Yeah, I would have.
I would say he looks pretty good for 67.
How old is Sharon Moon Zombie?
I don't know exactly. I'm gonna guess like 40s or 50s.
I don't know. I can tell she has aged in this movie,
Yeah.
but like she's fucking vegan, so she's gonna live
forever.
forever.
So will Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were some of the things you didn't like then?
I didn't like how this movie really didn't have a concrete storyline. And I think that's just kind of like a reoccurring theme throughout all the Rob Zombie movies. Just because, like, the whole beginning half was basically focused on just breaking Baby out of jail, like, all this shit, getting all the people together.
The band back together.
And then, boom, we're running away from the cops, and then now we're in Mexico, and now the fucking luchador assassins are gonna get us. Like, it was just very all over the place, but it was good. Like, it's not like I didn't like that, but I wish it would have followed a little bit better of a storyline, something that was a little bit more stronger, because I guess the whole point of this movie was just, like, if I had to break it down, like, what happened was they escaped from jail, and now some unfinished business is catching up with them, and that's it.
Well, let me talk about this for a minute, because again, I think I'll defend the movie, because I don't really think that I didn't mind, because I agree with you. I don't think it does have much of a plot, but I also didn't mind that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's like, it's kind of a common theme throughout all of Rob Zombie's movies, but I think with this one it works because the whole reason of making this third movie, of seeing this third movie, is because you're fans of the first two, and you really are just want to see those characters come back again, you know?
Yeah.
You want to see those characters you know from the first two. So, like, just seeing them interact is, like, the whole reason for this movie. And that's why I think the plot is secondary. And because I agree with you, I don't really think there is much of a plot. But I don't mind that. And I think, like, the best scenes in this movie are just when the characters are interacting. They're just kind of, like... I think that that's what this franchise has done that you don't really see in a lot of movies nowadays. Just moments where the characters are just, like... just being, like, themselves with each other. And, like... that's something that you don't get in a lot of movies nowadays. And I think that... it makes you really care about them more. Because you see that they... are just I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they're, like I said, they're murderers and everything, but at the end of the day, they're people. They love each other. You can tell they are family and stuff, and I think that's why I didn't mind so much that Captain Spaulding wasn't in here, because I really liked the new character, Richard Brake's character, because he brought in a different element to it, because he was kind of like the kid brother to Otis.
Honestly, this is how I thought of him. How his character was in the movie 31, I feel like was just this, but a little less crazy.
But I would say that this character is very different from his character in 31, because his character in 31 is just supposed to be a badass. Like, he's just like this crazy badass killer. Versus in this movie, he is still that, but he's also kind of has this vulnerability where he's kind of playing off Otis and stuff, where he's like I want to be this like badass killer, but he's still like the little like brother.
True.
You know, so he's still like learning
right.
the thing. Like, I think of like those moments when he shoots the Mexican assassins that are in Otis's room, and then Otis has to shoot the one because he wasn't fully dead, and he's like, make sure they're dead. It's like that kind of
like brotherly thing going on.
That's why I really like his character, that addition, because it brought in a different aspect to it.
Yeah.
But I will say my one negative kind of is similar to yours, Because I don't think there is much of a plot, but I think what the plot that there is, I think the criticism that this movie is going to get a lot is that it is too similar to The Devil's Rejects in terms of the plot structure. Because really, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like, there's some trouble with like the police at the very beginning, and then it goes on to a scene where it's like just them trapped in a small space with like a group of victims. Like in Devil's Rejects, it's like the hotel room.
Yeah.
And this one, it's the house with the family that when they're trying to spring baby. And then it's like, okay, we got to get out of here. Let's go find sanctuary somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And then the bad guys are called to kill them at that sanctuary because the bad guy has a personal vendetta against them. They want to get revenge against them.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of like the exact same story beats.
Just a little less horror movie and a little bit more thriller,
Western kind of thing. Yeah, so like I think that was my biggest problem. But again, I didn't really care too much because it's more, like I said, I think at the end of the day,
it's more nostalgia kind of thing.
It's more nostalgic. It's more about the characters, and I don't think you get that in a lot of movies these days. Aside from really, I think the only other examples of this is going to be a weird comparison, is like the Marvel movies. Because obviously you listen and you care about the plot in the Marvel movies, but it's more about seeing those characters who you've seen in like so many movies leading up to it.
Yeah.
So really, I think that this is kind of rare in cinema nowadays, especially in horror, that it's really just about those characters.
Well, yeah, usually you don't have a lot of, like with the exception of a few movies, like a trilogy or like a series of movies, right, that are kind of in sequence.
Like, yeah, exactly. I can't think of a real, like a horror trilogy where it's these where characters have come over between each movie and it's like a linear story and it's over like 15, 16, 17 years.
The closest I could think is Jason, because this bitch has been electrocuted,
yeah, but that's
drowned.
just one character.
No,
I mean,
I'm
like
kidding.
I'm so kidding. A group of characters.
I know.
So, yeah, I know.
The only thing I maybe would say would be the Conjuring kind of movies.
Yeah.
You kind of see them involved. Whatever, I don't know. It's very weak.
I mean, yeah, even that one, I would agree. That is an example, although it hasn't nearly been as long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What else? Do you have any other thoughts?
I'm just trying to think. What did you think of the gore and the violence in this movie? Did you think it was up to the same level and standards as the other movies, or do you think it was a little bit softer?
I think this movie was less about the gore versus like House of a Thousand Corpses. That's what it's about.
Which is all gore, yeah.
I thought it was still fine. Like the special, like the practical effects, were still fine. I think of like that scene where, Baby kills those two other prisoners. That was pretty good.
Honestly, that was probably the goriest it was, like the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this movie in particular focused less on the gore and more on the violence and
the impact of the violence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking of like the one scene where Baby is killing that woman with a knife, right? Like obviously it is gory, but it's just it's more violent.
Or the other I guess the other two ones I would think of is when Baby kills the guy at the vending machine.
Yeah.
And then also when Otis and the Midnight Wolf skin that girl's face.
Well, that's gory too, but it's very hardcore.
Yeah, also that that was Bill Moseley's wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Also, I really did enjoy Dee Wallace in this movie. Yeah. I feel like she jumps at any opportunity to be in a horror movie. She's like, "Yep, just sign me up. I'm there."
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought she was good. Like I thought, like that's the difference when you take like an actor like Dee Wallace, who is going to be good. It takes like what would be like just like a smaller character role and makes it seem better and more important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just thought her whole character was absolutely hilarious. She was like, "Bitch," I'm like, "Yes, Dee, get it."
And I even think like just that scene at the beginning, that the one scene you do get with Captain Spaulding is pretty good.
Yeah, his acting was very good. Like his face is just off-putting.
Yeah,
Like because he has such a big
mouth,
toothy mouth. Yeah, and then when he smiles, you're like, holy shit. Maybe they purposely didn't put him in this movie because they're like, oh my god, like we don't want to freak audiences out that much.
Another thing I actually kind of liked about, and this is kind of like something in all of Rob Zombie's movies, but you really felt it here, was like the 70s aesthetic.
Yes.
And even though it does take place mostly in the 80s, like at the very beginning, like for the first like 15 minutes of this movie, it's almost all like news footage and like shot like with like that kind of camcorder grainy style, which I thought was really interesting because yeah, like obviously it does go into like a regular movie later on, but like for the first like good chunk of the movie, it's just like news, like reporting and like seeing it from that outsider's perspective, like their time in jail.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting. And at one point, after it gone on for a while, I was like, is this entire movie gonna be like this? But I was like, nah, they wouldn't do that. And it just built up the suspense more to finally see like Baby and Otis and stuff return.
Yeah. I really like the one scene where I think it's the first like scene where you see Baby and she's walking in. I think she's going to her like parole hearing or whatever, right? And she's wearing that like the jean thing, and she just looks so fucking badass. I really like that. I was like, yes, this is what I want to be, but not a criminal.
Well, that's the thing. Like, again, I just think that, and this is more of like a compliment to all the movies, not just this one, but this applies here too, that it's like just amazing how these movies take these characters that are just horrible, horrible people
and make you fall in love
and
with
make
them.
you care about them and make you root for them and make you want to see them be okay.
See, this is the fucking problem with society, is that we're cheering on these masochist people.
Well, again, that's a comment on society that we're like,
just brutal.
Like, especially nowadays, like, we live in a time where true crime is such a big thing, and, like, that whole thing, like, last year, earlier this year, when people were saying, like, oh man, what's that guy? The serial killer, Ted Bundy. When people were like, oh, Ted Bundy's hot, and everything like that. Like, that felt like what they were making fun of in this movie. When they were like, when, like, there was, like, that girl, and she's like, I know Otis is scary, but I'd date him.
Jeez.
So it was like, I mean, that's easily could be a comment in society, too.
Can you say chicks dig a bad boy?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you have anything more you want to say?
Well, yeah, just to brag a little bit more about our whole experience. We were actually one of the first 50 people to receive a special, limited edition 3 from Hell poster, which we're actually going to get signed by Bill Moseley when we go to Frightmare in the Falls, which is like this horror convention. So, yeah, I thought I would just, nestle that little tidbit of information into your ears.
Yeah, are you done bragging?
So be fucking jealous, yo.
Jesus.
I don't know. I thought it was cool. I freaked out. Literally, when I saw them giving out the posters, I got up so fast, I actually thought I twisted my ankle. I was like, oh my god, am I alright? And you actually stopped and you're like, holy shit, Marlayna, you okay? I'm like, yeah, just go get the poster.
Well, I did think that is, like, that's the thing, with a movie like this, because it's not going to be getting, like, a full wide release, that's great because you can release it in theaters unrated, and people are still going to see it. That's why you got all the blood and the nudity and stuff in this movie and the swearing.
Yeah, there was a lot of titties in this movie.
Yeah, there was even vagina.
Wow.
There was Bill Moseley's butt.
Which was the most X-rated thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. And it also kind of made it more of an event in the sense that, like, one night they were giving away free posters. The next night, like tomorrow, if you go see it, there was going to be like a 30-minute behind-the-scenes kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
That played before it. And then on Wednesday, when you see it, they were showing it with a double bill with this and Devil's Rejects before it.
Well, I definitely feel happy knowing that we got a poster. That seems like the cream of the crop out of the 3 days.
Nice.
Also, guys, this movie theater that we went to is hands down the best movie theater I have ever been to in my life. What was it called? It was called
The Regal.
The Regal on Elmwood or whatever in Buffalo. Okay, this thing's fucking crazy insane. So you sit in these seats that are reclining, also have a table.
And our seats kind of like a sofa.
Yeah, it's basically like a sofa seat that like reclines like a lazy boy. And then you have so much room. Like you're not hitting the person in front of you. Like it's just very spacious, which is perfect for a person like me. I get very claustrophobic, especially in movie theaters. So when I sat down, I was like, this is it. This is the best movie theater I've ever been into in my entire life. And yeah, the popcorn was really good. And like I said, this was the first time we ever been to a movie theater in the States. And when Connor got his drink, he asked for like a large Coke. I swear to God, this thing was a vat of Coca-Cola. It was huge. We couldn't get over how big the cup sizes are in the States, as well as like the popcorn sizes. I'm like, holy shit, diabetes. But yeah, I don't know. All in all, I had a very, very good experience. Not only seeing the movie, but just in the theater that we saw the movie.
Well, do you think that your movie-going experience colored your opinion on the movie?
A little bit. I was freaking out, like, in a good way afterwards. I couldn't wait to make this podcast and just go ham at it.
Okay, well, that was Marlayna's review of the movie theater.
Yes.
And not the movie itself.
I mean, like,
getting back on topic.
I could probably have an hour podcast just talking about this movie theater.
Alrighty. Anyways, so do you want to go into final thoughts, or do you want to say anything else?
Well, let's go into final thoughts. I'm pretty sure I've spilled all my guts on
You spilled your beans?
Why'd you spill your beans?
Oh my god. Alright, so final thoughts. I mean, for me, I think that this movie it delivered exactly what I wanted, which is it was Rob Zombie going back to his comfort zone, going back to what he does best, which is these characters. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, my 3 favorite Rob Zombie films are, in order, The Devil's Rejects, 3 from Hell, and The House of a Thousand Corpses. And it's because of these characters, and I think it delivered on that. It delivered on bringing you, like, just these characters doing what you love. They're killing, and at the same time, they're also interacting like a family and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was like, and you could tell Rob Zombie's, even his writing and stuff, it was more constrained. It was more like, considering the fact that his last most recent movie before this was 31, which I really didn't like. This was great. And on the flip side of that, seeing the actors, like seeing, Bill Moseley return, Sherry Moon Zombie return, Sid Haig return for a little bit, and then the addition of Richard Brake, I thought he was awesome. And so they all, like, you can tell, especially with Sherry Moon Zombie and Bill Moseley, that they feel so comfortable in these roles now.
Well, they're all friends, too.
Yeah,
which makes it a lot easier to, act in front of people.
That's the thing, I don't even always like Sherry Moon Zombie, but I liked her in this.
Yeah. You know what I was actually really looking forward to? It's just a small little flash of Sherry Moon's ass. Because I swear to God, in every movie, Rob Zombie makes an effort to take some form of a picture or video of Sherry Moon's ass. So I was kind of expecting it, but I also got another ass scene in this movie, which was from
Moseley.
Bill Moseley, yeah, which was not as good, but it sufficed. It was all right. It was a good bum.
There you go. All right, well, what's your final rating?
Well, I think you pretty much summed it all up, saying that,
I didn't even give my final rating. Oh, you go first.
I was talking about final thoughts.
Oh, whatever.
You know what? I'm just going to make it short and sweet. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I would recommend you go and see this. It really lived up to my expectations of a good Rob Zombie film. I like the imagery in the movie. I like the violence and all that shit. I like seeing the characters come and return and have the whole nostalgia thing, like stuff. I don't know. You've already said all the things there is to say, and I 100% agree with you.
So what's your final rating?
Oh, okay. How many
bullet wounds
out
of 10?
I'd give it I'd give it a 9. I'd give it a 9.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
I'd give it an 8.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go one lower. And just because I thought, like, my one criticism was that in terms of plot structure, it was too similar to Devil's Rejects. And simply because you just, I love Richard Brake, but you can't replace Sid Haig. So more Sid Haig would have improved it, even though I understand why it didn't. And it made sense to me why it didn't.
Yeah.
But still, I'd give it 8. 8 out of 10. Awesome movie.
See, again, I agree with you, but I'd give it a 9 just because of the movie theater,
God.
which enhanced the movie itself. I think it made the movie better.
Alrighty, well, that was a review of Three from Hell and apparently this movie theater.
Yeah.
Marlon, if they have any questions about the movie theater, where can they find us?
Well, you can email me personally. Don't worry, I'll answer all your questions. I hope we get sponsored by this movie theater.
We won't.
Well, if you have any comments, and hopefully no concerns, you can shoot us up an email at spooknotes@gmail.com. You can find us on all the cool social media platforms such as iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud, all under the sick handle Spooknotes. If you are so lucky to have seen this movie yourself, feel free to leave a comment on any of these platforms that we're on and tell us what you think. We always like to hear what you guys think and what your opinions are, especially on semi-rare movies such as these.
Okay, quickly before we go, one thing I was going to ask you that I forgot to ask you. I gave you my top 3. Your top 3 favorite Rob Zombie films.
In order? Okay.
Yeah.
Devil's Rejects, Three from Hell, Lords of Salem.
All right, great. And as always,
don't forget to cite the Spook Notes.
Bye.
Bye.